Welcome to Live from America podcast. This is Hatem alongside me, the funny and good friend of mine, Andrew Heaton, comedian, author, podcaster. He does it all. Welcome back.
Hello.
No,
Hey, good to
no.
be back.
Yeah.
Triumphantly back after years of being absent. I have returned.
Yes, you have. And actually, we in the podcast. Actually, we were taking some time off about a couple of weeks. Um, Busy with life. And Noam is not here today, but he will be back the next one. But yeah, I took a couple of weeks off and I was focusing on other stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take off from the news and from everything. And I noticed two things. One is uh, any news, good or bad, especially in the Trump era, in a day or two, it's just gonna be like very old news. Um,
Yeah.
and then everything just passes. So there is no reason really to be depressed about anything or anxious about anything because it's just going to pass. So after I'd taken 2 weeks off, I came back and I was like, holy shit. And then, oh, holy shit, that happened a week ago. It's not even a story anymore and stuff. So we're gonna go through a lot of stuff with you. But before the show, we were talking about how sometimes, we're talking about comedy and writing sketches and stuff like that. And you made a great point. Like there's some foundations of some network will tell you like, hey, we want you to do something comedy, but that fits our agenda. You want to touch on that a little bit
hmm
because it was an interesting comment.
Yeah. For people unfamiliar with me, I'm a podcaster. I host a show called The Political Orphanage. That's my main job, and I also make political satire. Like I make funny political comedy videos. I've been in D.C. for approaching a year, where I make about a funny video per week with Reason TV. And I'm usually making fun of Republicans and Democrats, the government, Congress, or just it's a big hole that I'm shoveling jokes into. But I'm very nonpartisan in my comedy. And I like making fun of politics because I think politics is kind of funny. Uh, but I've been in this space for a while now. I've been doing political satire in one form or another for about a decade. And what I've found is that a lot of the time when an organization wants to hire you to do political satire, what they're really wanting to do is use comedy to weaponize a particular axe that they want to grind. And I don't think it's unethical if you agree with it. I like if somebody I think we're ridiculously overzoned in this country, and that's why housing is so expensive. So like if I don't know, Matt Iglesias or Ezra Klein called me and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in making a funny anti-zoning video for Vox?" Like I would do it. I don't think that there's anything bad about that as long as you believe what you're saying. You're not just a hired gun lying to people. But there is a practical consideration when you do that kind of thing, which is first, not all topics are equally funny. And I've found that a lot of organizations don't fundamentally understand that. If they don't have a comedy background, they're like, "We'll just add 3 pounds of humor." Actually, we really care about this. Add 10 pounds of humor to this. And you're like, no, some things aren't target rich. Some things are easy to make fun of. Some things aren't very easy to make fun of either because they're boring or they're sad or whatever. And so it's not so much a point and click medium where you can just have your litanies that you want to do comedy on. And the other thing is too that it's very easy, I think, to alienate viewers to videos that are hyper targeted because people can smell propaganda. And I think what is much more effective is to make things that you think are funny or that you're agitated by and trust that you've got a political worldview that's going to inform that. I think the early Daily Show is a very good example of this, where the Daily Show was not a think tank that took improv classes and put a comedy show together in order to further the goals of the New Liberal Center or whatever. It was a group of very funny comedians, all of whom happened to be liberal, who put a comedy show together. And I think that model ends up being the most successful one of just how do we maximize fun? How are we maximally funny? And we're going to have a viewpoint because we've got our political opinions. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am on that. I think for groups that want to do political satire, like just lean into the fun and select people that you broadly agree with, and you're going to get a better outcome.
But isn't that the whole thing with also the news podcast? Because I feel like even like during the presidential race when there's like the candidate will go to popular podcast or news interviews, you feel that the questions even leaning towards their own public, political side. Like if I am
Mhm.
liberal, I'm gonna ask question to my liberal candidate as, to help them say what they want, and vice versa. If I'm interviewing the other guy, I'm just gonna go be like, bad. Not in terms of like journalism where you ask the same question or, but
Well,
isn't that,
but even then, though, like I think that's a really salient point. I don't think there's such a thing as objectivity in
yeah,
journalism. I think that that is a silly and fallacious way to conduct yourself. But I should say there's a difference between being even-handed versus being objective. I'm not objective. I have my opinions. I've got very complex, well-formed opinions I've been thinking about for a decade now. And I would be lying if I approached a situation by going, I'm walking into this carte blanche. I really don't have a dog in it. Of course I fucking do. But I am even handed. And so I will try to disprove whatever it is that I'm working on. I'll stress test. Like if I'm doing an episode of the Political Orphanage, I did one on housing here recently. I will try to find information that disagrees with my worldview to stress test it, and I will when I'm looking at people that I disagree with, I will do them the courtesy of going, what is the best faith argument for what they're talking about? I might think that they're lying. I might think that it's not going to work. I might think like there's all sorts of things, but I'll at least go, this is what they're saying they're doing, which I
mm.
think is something that you're obligated to do. Um, and uh, and when stuff chafes my worldview, I'll tell you. Like in the housing episode I did, like there was a particular set of policies that seemed to work pretty well in the location. I was looking at how other countries around the world do housing, and I was like, this one really kind of isn't my preferred economic model, but it's very popular. It seems to work, and I need to acknowledge that. Because I'm being even-handed. I'm trying to let you know what I discover as opposed to trick you into arriving at my conclusion. That being said, though, that's different than claiming to be objective, and I don't think you can be objective. So, uh, I went to last year the Republican National Convention, the Republican National Convention, the Democratic National Convention, and the Libertarian National Convention. There are thousands of people that are there. There are thousands of stories that I could do while I'm there. I could go in and go, is the Republican convention about populism versus the establishment? Is it an economic thing? Is it a religious thing? Is this the evangelical movement? There's so many different angles that I could do that there are literally millions of data points that I have to filter through very rapidly. And so I, like everybody else, is going to go, well, I think the relevant thing is X. It's all about political economy, or nope, it's about ideology, whatever that thing is. Everybody, if you're gathering data, you have to have a lens that narrows the scope of what you're looking at because there's too much data to process it. And so everybody does that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that you're going to have a bias there of if, at the very least, you're going to be concerned with a particular phenomenon, like you're going to look more at economics rather than ideology, or you're going to look more at race rather than economics, or something like that. So I don't think that's remotely avoidable. And then you get into kind of second order things of, yeah, we all have an inbuilt desire to prove what we already believe. So if evidence comes our way that supports what we already think, we're probably not going to test it that hard. Whereas if evidence comes around that we don't like very much, we're going to be doubly hard on it. So, like in your candidate example, maybe I'm going to ask slightly tougher questions when I'm talking to somebody I disagree with, and a little bit easier questions when I talk to someone I agree with, and I won't even know I'm doing it. But I think the solution to all of that is just abandoned claiming to be
But
objective.
you
Just be
wouldn't you
even-handed.
wouldn't know that you're doing it if you're not prepared for it, if you're not professional. But when you are a professional and this is your interview and you have a team that preparing stuff for you, you know, I think people go with like even whenever they write an article or say they go with the end goal. What do we want them to feel after this interview is done or this podcast? I want them to vote for this or to do this, and then they walk their way back. While it's supposed to be. I'm gonna be like you said, I do have a dog in the fight. I do have an opinion, but I am gonna listen and ask the same questions for both. I'll be tough on both, to get it. But it's not, and it goes to funding, goes to a lot of things, So,
All of that would be great. The other thing too, like a problem I have with modern media to a great extent is I think that the press should be openly antagonistic to whoever's in power, regardless of whether you agree with them or not. Just anybody that can take your money or kill you or send you to war to die should be under constant scrutiny and under constant skepticism. And the press should be the one holding their feet to the fire, regardless of who's in power, right? So, like, rather than having it set up now where we've got our guy in office or we don't have our guy in office, and we're going to kind of lean towards conservative or lean towards progressive, I wish the press would view themselves more like a defense attorney going up against a prosecutor. Like, whoever's in power is the prosecutor. You're the defense attorney. It's your job to fight them, not
But
to
not to
pick
a
which one
point
you
where you
like.
make their job also impossible, like the Russian Hulk thing that would
The
happen, or
what thing?
the Russian thing with the first Trump, administration. Uh, this was, lying. Uh, we all know Trump has nothing to do with it. Same thing with Biden being, and I don't like Trump and I like Biden. Not like Biden, but I voted for Biden. And
Okay.
lying about Biden being, not there this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is that? Where is the media? Where is, like, you have to have some integrity to be like, oh shit, this is cannot be the president. And yeah, I agree with you that we should attack, or not attack, but should keep them under a tight microscope when when they're president or power, but not to a point where, like, oh, he's a Russian spy, he's this, and now he has spent all his time in court without while this time he could be spending doing good things for people. I mean, I assume that he should, but
I don't know that the media can stop the president from doing his job. I don't think that the media has veto power on that. I agree with your basic premise that the media shouldn't suck.
But
That
he was under a constant investigation, everybody around him. The FBI forces how much money we spend. If we put it, like, let's put it, I'm gonna do what the media does that. If we put it in housing, something you care about,
yeah, I care
uh,
about housing. Yeah.
yeah, if it's instead of like all the FBI, all the manpower, all the stuff, it could have helped other people. But but let's go to the news. What's been going on? So I came back from my no news 2 weeks thing, and I found a few things that I don't understand. That's why I always have Andrew, because he knows exactly what's going on. Let's start with LA. What's going on?
Whew. Well, a lot of stuff's going on, Hatem.
How did it start? What happened?
What happened was ICE has been cracking down on illegal immigrants in everywhere, but in particular in LA, which has a very large immigration population. They've been given a quota to dramatically scale up the amount of detentions they're doing every day. I think previously it was like 300 a day. Now it's 3,000 a day. So it's a really, really high amount. The methods by which those are being done is oftentimes telling people that they need to go to their asylum meeting, like texting them, you need to go to the courthouse to get a meeting with the judge about asylum, then just arresting them and subsequently deporting them in a very, very big, wide net maneuver to do this. That has sparked, that and other things have sparked protests in Los Angeles, as well as riots, which are different things. Protesting is legal and fine. Rioting is not. And so there's both of those things going on. The riots as of Sunday night were limited to the city of Paramount, where I think two Waymo cars had been set on fire. And there were people, somebody ran a motorcycle into a line of cops. So it was bad. Like, this is something that required law enforcement actions. What happened after that was President Trump said, I am going to send in the National Guard. California's government is inept at quelling a disturbance of the peace, if not openly supporting people that are opposed to this law rather than cooperating with the federal government. So we're going to send in the National Guard. And they did. This is the first time since 1965 that the president has federalized National Guard troops without the request or approval of the governor. Under normal circumstances in America, the National Guard, which is basically the state militia, we call it the National Guard, but I don't know why we call it that. The National Guard of California is the state militia of the Californian government. But there's two different lines of authority. One's to the governor of whatever state they're in, and one's to the president. Both of them can exercise that option. Normally, they're working in concert with each other. There have been moments in history where that didn't happen. It started with Eisenhower for reasons of desegregating campuses, where Students were going to go into a college that had been desegregated, and the state was going to stop them from doing it. So Eisenhower invoked the Insurrection Act that said that if a group of people is rebelling against the lawful orders of the United States, that the federal government can send in troops to staunch the rebellion and enforce federal law. Trump has not invoked the Insurrection Act. He's actually invoked something that's a little bit lighter. That's I want to say like the Commodus Act from 1798 or something like that. It's older and lighter. It has a more narrow remit. It does not authorize the military to do police action. It authorizes the military to guard federal property and to guard federal officers. So they're limited in what they can do. They can't go out and start shoving rioters into vans or anything like that, but they can guard particular facilities where these things are happening. So the National Guard was sent in, and as of today, 700 Marines have been sent in, and the situation seems to be
What's the difference between Marines and National Guards sending this or that?
the National Guard is a set of state militia. It's the people that are part-time soldiers that live in California and do 1 weekend a month, but otherwise are working their jobs or whatever. That tend to be mobilized for things like flooding or relief in a natural disaster, or if we're in war, they're available as reserves. So like a lot of National Guardsmen got sent to Iraq back when the conflict was active. Marines are a standing army. They're a standing professional army that's part of the American federal military. So it's sort of leveling up. It's becoming more martial. So where we find ourselves to do the even-handed thing before I weigh in with my own opinion and solicit yours, Hatem, is Governor Newsom of California has said, we didn't request this. We specifically advised the president not to do this. And the president has sent in National Guard and now Marines, which is inflaming tensions. It's making everything worse. It's causing more riots to occur, which is precipitating even more federal action. This is irresponsible, and we can infer from Newsom's perspective, this is a political maneuver designed to make the Trump administration appear very like butting heads, getting things done to its base, while also drawing out the protesters and highlighting the lawlessness and incompetency of California. Now, on the flip side of the coin, if you're on the Trump side of this, what you would say is California, and in particular cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco, have openly said they are sanctuary cities that are not going to cooperate with federal law regarding immigration. And on top of that base level of refusing to cooperate with federal law, there are riots going on that they are either unable or unwilling to fix. And so in these situations, whether you like it or not, the law of the land is you don't get to be here if you're an illegal immigrant. The executive branch is following those laws and is now trying to kick everybody out that's in violation of them. And in the same way that in the 60s, the federal government would have to come in to stop state governments from suspending federal law involving segregation. The federal government needs to come in and compel people in California to allow lawful immigration activity to occur because the California government is not stopping the riots from happening. So that's where we find ourselves. That's the framework. And I guess from here, Hatem, I would love to know what you make of this, and then I can give you my opinion as well.
Well, I have a couple of questions. First, is it true that he said that they want to arrest Newsom?
The quote is it was something like, if I were Tom, and I don't know who he's referring to, if I were Tom, yeah, maybe I'd think about arresting him. I think the exact quote is in the link you sent me. It looked to me like Trumpian shoot from the hip rhetoric and not a serious thing. I
Okay.
don't like, for the record, that a president would joke about that.
Yeah.
But it did not look to me like we were in Civil War territory where the president is saying Governor Newsom is in violation of federal law and I'm sending federal marshals to apprehend him and put him under custody as he is a lawful combatant against the United States, something like that. It seemed to be a more shoot from the hip thing, but not appropriate.
What about the is it true that the National Guard is usually from the state will be leaning more towards what the governors want? That's why he sent the Marines.
That's possible.
Hmm.
I can't really speak to that though. I think like in this day and age, I think that that was probably true 100 years ago, when the we were more like multiple countries that were operating in one big country.
Because I think National
Today,
Guard is also a road to citizenship. It's a way to get a citizenship. So it's a lot of
yes, I think you're right. I think that's a route to do it.
yeah.
Uh, that's possible. I don't know though. I don't know the mechanism by which they've done that. I don't know whether the National Guard has activated local troops in Los Angeles or whether they're bringing them in from the central part of the state or whatever. So I don't. If the Trump administration were worried that the National Guard would have dual loyalties to their countries of origin or to Governor Newsom, I don't think that they would have activated them in the first place, or they
Hmm.
would have sent in a National Guard from somewhere else. So while that's possible, I suspect that the Marines thing is really just a way of going, we're bringing in the big guns. Like the
Yeah.
situation's getting worse. People are now throwing cement from overpasses down at cops and things like that. So now, like you fucked with the bear, we're bringing in even bigger bears. I think that's what's going on. I
Yeah.
don't really think it's that they're trying to eclipse the National Guard because they're seen as divided loyalties.
I like to know how did they get with the number 700? Like why 7? Why not 1,000? Why not 500? Like why 700? It's crazy.
Yeah, I got
What's
no idea.
if you were hired right now to be the one that the governor of California first. What would you
Uh,
do?
if I were the governor of California right now, I would probably do what they're doing, which is try to force this action to stop in the courts. I don't think it'll work. I think that the law is probably either on Trump's side or there's a lot of latitude there. If the if the previous actions that occurred under Eisenhower and LBJ and Kennedy were look, the state is refusing to enforce a federal law. I think that there's some wiggle room for that, but I would probably go that route to see if I could do it. The other thing I would do is like I would just try to make sure that we could stop riots from happening using our own resources, and try to de-escalate the situation, and like try to wear it out. I think that's what I would do. Yeah. What would you do?
Do we have information on who is writing? Is it like immigrants or like everybody or
I
uh
don't know. I
okay.
don't know. I know that the Republicans or I should say, many Republicans like Charlie Kirk are calling for this as a pretext to suspend all immigration from third world countries.
Hmm.
There seems to be a line going out from the Republicans because it's. I've seen. Oh, hold on. Somebody sent this to me. See if you detect a pattern here. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire says, ban all third world immigration, legal or illegal. There should be a moratorium on all immigration from the third world. We've reached our capacity. We cannot be the world's soup kitchen anymore. Charlie Kirk writes, it's time to ban third world immigration, legal or illegal. We've reached our limit. We have a huge cultural, educational, housing, financial, and essential services problem to fix now because of it. We need a net zero immigration moratorium with a ban on all third worlders. Jack Poso writes, it's time to ban third world immigration, legal or illegal. We've reached our limit and we have a huge cultural, educational, housing, financial, and essential services problem to fix now because of it. We need a zero immigration moratorium. So somebody's got a memo they're passing out to the Republicans, and this is becoming a pretext now for ending net migration. In a sense, I do appreciate that they're being honest about it. The Republican Party presently doesn't like immigrants. They don't want immigrants. They don't want more people coming into the party into the country. I'm glad that they're being open about this now, as opposed to doing the kind of kabuki dance they were previously doing of we're not opposed to immigrants, we just want better security.
Hmm.
A position that I hold. I want better security and more immigrants.
Yeah.
But I think now they're kind of revealing like, no, we actually don't want immigrants. We want to we want to stop immigrants from coming in, at least from low labor. They're still figuring out H-1 visas and things like that, but they don't want them coming in from the third world.
Yeah. Well, the third world is people with no money.
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia is not third world. So,
Yeah.
so it's not about safety, because 11 of the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not about that. It's about, it's interesting. Um, So what's your opinion on what's going on from, is it political between Trump and Newsom? Is he trying to take him out of possible being the next nominee for the Democrat, Newsom, or like, or is just this is just something that's happening?
I do think it's political. I don't think it's that targeted. I think Trump wants to stack up wins. That's Trump's MO is how do I get a win? How do I go to my people and say we did it? And a lot of the time that means precipitating problems and then kind of solving them. I think a lot of the tariff shit we dealt with the last 3 months was Trump starting a problem that really wasn't a problem, like our tariffs with Britain. I think we were at 10% and then we renegotiated down to 10%.
Yeah.
But we could go, but we did it. The British came to us. They look how scared they looked. That was a win for America. I think this is something like that. I think that this is Trump playing to his base of California is full of illegal immigrants, lawless rioters, and a feckless, incompetent government. And we are unafraid to send in the troops and restore law and order and bust some heads. And that is very appealing to the MAGA core. And so I think that's what's going on. I think it's an optics thing and a political thing primarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the immigration, obviously I think that Biden fucked it up a lot by having an open border. So now we have a lot of um, criminals, stuff like that, and fucked it up, especially for immigrants, because for any immigrant, first of all, this country, everybody's an immigrant. It just, but it's funny because every generation comes want to stop the immigration from the one before. Um, but the rules of immigrants usually when they come in is you do very good in school, you work very hard, and you stay out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's what there used to be. But then when you have an open border policies and having that amount of people, now people gonna come in and they're gonna commit crime and stuff like that, and they should be removed. But now you using it if you have your own agenda that you want just certain America here, and take
Mm-hmm.
everybody, you're gonna use this to do it. So it's always gonna be politicalized, either from either side. We want somebody who actually cares about this country, who understand the immigration and have a good policy, and be like,
So
okay,
I think you're right about Biden, by the way. Like I went a year ago, year and a half ago, I went down to the border. I went and met with a chief for the border patrol. Met with the border patrol chief. Met with Catholic Services down in near El Paso. That wasn't the name of the town, but like right on the border, like where migrants are coming in every day and it's at capacity and they've got people on pallets. Like went and talked to them about what that's like. Where Biden screwed up is Biden changed the policy that we had where you can apply for asylum within the country. Previously, prior to Biden, if you wanted to come to the United States and sue for asylum policy, I am a religious minority in a particular country, and I'm going to be murdered. I would like asylum. The previous law was you have to wait for that legal process to occur at the last safe port of entry for you, not within the United States. So if you get to the Mexican border or the Canadian border or whatever, and you sue for asylum, America goes, great, fill out this paperwork. We will be with you in 3 to 4 months, and then we'll let you know. Biden reversed that, and he said you can wait for your status on asylum within the United States, and that did create a a really big incentive for people to come over the border because now you can come over the border, and as long as you go, I'm an asylum seeker, they will let you through. They will give you papers and things, but like you can just go now. You don't have
yeah,
like they're not you're in. So you can follow up if you want, but it's going to be kind of hard to find you, particularly if you're only planning to be here for a couple of years. Do some migrant labor and go back. So that was a big problem that Biden did. He
yeah.
had a problem with that. Um,
And also
the
giving a
the
lot of resources for people that didn't know. Like, I like that a lot of people, like here in New York, where they be like, oh, how can they do this and deport? And then once the buses start arriving to New York, that changed the whole aspect. Once,
That's and see that's the other thing too is like I think that folks along the border have a very good point. Not that immigrants are bad, but that they don't like magically disperse at a homeostatic level across the country. It's not like when people cross the border, poof, like they're teleported to
yeah,
Oregon and like no, that's a very legitimate. If you're in El Paso, you have a limited amount of infrastructure available to you in terms of basic things like sewage and public bathrooms and places that people can stay before they're sleeping on benches. Like that's like there's a bottleneck effect that goes on that folks at the border have a very good point on. And that is something that should involve
Yeah,
federal
which is
intervention.
yeah, which is an insult to a lot of, like I said, the immigrants, and this is why a lot of like Americans, that originally from, immigrated here voted for Trump, I think. I know a lot of people did, and I think because they weren't happy, because they give it a bad rep that for everybody to come into this country while, that the H1R1 visas for like the people that, I feel like they give a lot to the country, but not as much as regular, immigrants, by the way. Yeah, you get somebody who's genius in certain things or can do stuff, but if you look overall to the labor, to the invention, to the stores, to the chains and stuff like that, it's based on a lot of hard working immigrants,
Hmm.
educated or not. But once those immigrants start seeing others coming in, you know, legally or illegal, I mean illegally mostly, or legally, and they overstay their visa
Hmm.
and just come in and get money from the government and get live in hotels and get like food stamps and get everything, and just like you're like, we worked very hard for the, you ruin our
Well,
country.
and went through a fucking horrific root canal of a legal process too. Like, are you a citizen, Hatem? Have you naturalized?
Yeah.
That's okay. I've just like it was a long, complicated process, wasn't it? It wasn't like you filled out one form, got off the plane, and then a year
No, for me,
later
they
took a
just like
test.
me. They
They just
like,
liked you. They were like
yeah,
so handsome,
yeah.
so handsome.
They like, okay.
Uh,
No,
well, yeah.
no, it's a long process, and it's a lot of work, and a lot of proven that, first of all, like from criminal record to taxes, to like you have to show that you really are part of the community and stuff like that. And it's just like I said, it's like it was always about coming here to get that dream, that everybody does. And that's why, I think immigrants were always the one that stay away from trouble, like not the one that get into trouble. Like I still remember that scene, and that was a turning point for you. I still didn't, vote for Trump, but I agreed with a lot of his policy. I disagree with a lot actually as well. But that scene in Times Square when two cops were attacked, and then they let the kids that attacked them out of jail with no bail. It was just
Mm,
like, what is this? Like, this is
mm.
just not right. It can be like this. Like this,
Well, I think like what I would like for somebody to do, and I think Trump could do this if he wanted to. He has a lot of political clout right now. If he wanted to actually reform immigration in a sane
Yeah,
way, he might get it done, and he would have my eternal thanks for doing it because we don't have a good immigration system. We have a
yeah,
really shitty immigration system. What I want is wide gates and high walls. I want more people coming in legally who want to work hard and be a part of our country. I think I would dramatically increase that number. I would double the amount of people coming into the country to work. I would remove caps on H-1 visas. I would scale up dramatically the amount of people coming in, and I would figure out how to stop bottlenecking from happening at the border. And I would try to focus our attention not on stopping immigrants from coming in, but from stopping dangerous immigrants from coming in. And the problem that I see that we've currently got is we now have an anti-immigrant system. This happened under Trump last time as well, where they did everything they could to make legal immigration difficult for people. I know folks that went through the immigration process under the first Trump administration. A friend of mine is an immigration attorney. Like their actions are anti-immigrant. That's not what I want. And I think when you have an anti-immigrant sentiment like that, when you've got a country with a lot of opportunity in it and a lot of money, and a lot of poor countries that would like to come in, and you just shut things down as best you can, what you're going to get is a bunch of illegal immigrants. And it's like making the national speed limit 15 miles an hour and then getting really angry that everybody's speeding. The trick is not to make it 15 miles an hour. The trick is to have it at a realistic rate and then focus on people that are drunk or dangerous or whatever, in terms of my speeding metaphor, right? So we're we're focusing so hard on this shitty immigration system that we can't discern between the people that we would like to have come into the country, people that could wait on the outside of the country, and people who are bad actors. I think it ends up making us less safe. And I
Yeah.
really wish they would actually reform the system. Right now, it's just kind of a, yay, we did it, fuck them. Like it's a very like kind of jingoistic,
Yeah.
like we're getting rid of the illegals that I don't care for.
But that, 2 points on that. One is like, yeah, like I said, it's become a, Biden did one thing, so now I'm gonna fix it, but I'm not fixing the problem. I'm fixing what he did, and whoever's gonna come after Trump is gonna be the vice versa. I'm gonna fix every president that comes is like I'm just gonna fix the person before, not fix the problem. But I think the main issue, and I think there's a lot of, which leads to somebody like Elon Musk, which we'll talk about after is I think we in a dangerous times where people are labeled. I don't feel that problem, but again, I live in New York, so but immigration, especially illegal immigration, it's it's path of the country. You cannot just spread the country to the original people and the immigrants. You cannot do that. They have to like after a while. And this is that, I had a conversation with a lot of people before. It's like, a lot of the immigrants, they come in and they make the money and they go back to their country and build houses and stuff. They don't stay here. They're not real American. It's like, no, it's not that. They weren't welcome. They never felt that they're part of it. Because there is people that always make them feel that they're not part of it. I think if you come into this country and you work hard and you're willing to protect it and serve in the military if needed and pay your taxes and do everything right, you are an American. That's what the American dream is. It's not just making money or stuff like that. And
I
everybody
don't
here,
care if they just want to make money. I'm fine with that. If you want to
yeah.
come to America and pick fruit for a season, you want to go back to your country and thanks for picking fruit, dude.
No,
I
no,
don't got
but
a
I'm
problem with
saying
that.
the part is like I don't want, I think one of the when you have that major reform for immigration policies, it have to be like, okay, there's different kind of immigrants. There's immigrants that come in, there's tourists, there's people that want to immigrate here for a couple of years to make money or whatever, work on contract, and there's people that are Americans. They are going to be American. They are American. They're not different than other people because pretty much every person here was or is immigrant, came from
Hmm.
somewhere, except if you were like the original.
Elizabeth Warren, yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, so I feel like this is part of the things because this is a movement that's been happening for the past maybe 10 years or so is like the tweets that you just said, get rid of all immigration, legal or not legal. What? Like,
Yeah,
who
and
are
that's
you?
just stupid too. Like you don't want like first of all, a lot of the a lot of the jobs they're doing Americans don't want to do, and that's the truth. Like
Yeah.
they I interviewed a number of people when I was down there that run orchards and farms, and the people are coming in on H-2 visas. I want to say I'm going to forget all the distinctions here,
Yeah.
but the way we do it in the United States under federal law is you have to pay a minimum amount legally to legal immigrants to do migrant work, and it varies from where you're at. So there's sort of like a minimum wage for migrant workers. The idea being that the government does not want legal migrant workers to undercut local workers, and it's really high. It's like I don't know, like $20 in Oregon or something like that to pick
Mm.
fruit, and and they still can't get people to do it. Like the whole purpose is to make it so expensive
Yeah.
that Americans have recourse to do it, and just we don't want to do it. We don't want to do like backbreaking fruit picking labor for not a lot of money,
Yeah.
and also like we do need the fruit. We need stuff to happen. So like there's a gulf here. And what ends up happening is if you follow the law and you actually fill out the ridiculous amount of paperwork and you hire people legally and you pay them the established amount, you're going to get undercut from all the fuckers down the street who aren't doing that are
Yeah.
hiring illegal workers.
But but
And so,
but like again, I think there's the two things. Like one is like there's I think there's three types of immigrants. One is the one that willing to do the minimum work, like picking fruits or whatever. Just do whatever to get. But these guys are usually doing this for their families, and then their second generation and third generation
yeah,
becomes, very, very good and lawyers, and and then you have the top ones, the one that come in HRVs as like geniuses with certain specific things, and they do that. But I think the core and powerful one are the middle one, the ones that actually this country was built on, being immigrant country, the one that believe in the American dream and the American values, and they saw the rest of the world and want to be here and want to be part of it. So my point is like in immigration policies, everybody have to be treated a path to being just, you can be seen as two separate things. And the other thing, like you said, no one is really trying to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Look at the first thing that was said about Elon is like, oh, what's Steve Bannon? He said like he should be deported back to his country. Like that was so quick. So let's talk. We have a few minutes. Let's talk about Elon Trump. I mean, everybody see it coming.
Hmm.
Everyone, it's just like, but everybody was kind of shocked on the speed of this shit. But can you believe that it's only been like 5 months
Oh
since?
my God. We're what, like 150 days in to the
Yeah,
Trump administration? Like it's like we've only just now done 100 days, maybe like 130 days. Oh my God, this is going
I
to be a
know,
long presidency,
I know.
very long presidency. Yeah, and I think we all saw this coming. We're like, huh, two
Yeah,
guys with really big egos and thin skin that are happy to be belligerent online. Yeah, that's stable. That's stable.
yeah.
That's going to work real well.
But look at this. Speaking of immigration, like let's take it from this angle first. The first thing happened is like, oh, he's an immigrant. He's not a. Let's deport him back to like really, I mean, I don't like or dislike Elon, but I think he did a lot of things that I don't like. But uh,
There's a lot of problems I have with Elon, but I'd prefer his money stay in the United States. If he is the wealthiest man in the world, I'd sure like that money to be in American capital and American bank accounts and going towards startup operations
and
from
the
everything
invention.
going
Do
on.
you rather Tesla being a Chinese company or
Hmm.
Saudi Arabia come or Dubai or United Arab Emirates or England or whatever, like why we used to be the first in everything. And this is and this is another thing is like when they were like I said that when they were attacking uh, you know uh when the Second World War happened and all the and this is was that's why we don't want our scientists to start leaving, because this is exactly what happened after Second World War. All the German, specifically Jewish scientists start coming to the United States, and that's when we invented, the atomic bomb first and all these inventions that came after. So that was a big shift from Europe and Germany specifically being far advanced to us being far advanced. So now
Yeah.
if we're gonna push all these guys away, someone else is gonna take it.
Yeah, we've also got a really dumb thing on the tax books. I just learned about this recently, but back during the first Trump administration, to offset corporate tax rates, because whatever thing they did in the Senate required offsetting tax cuts, they redefined developer engineers as human capital for tax purposes. So, like normally, if I were to hire you as a comedian to work for Mighty Heaton LLC, I could deduct your salary because it's a cost. It's a business cost. I would deduct that. It doesn't count towards my profit, and therefore it doesn't count towards my taxes. For whatever reason, we've now legally redefined developer engineers, development engineers like software and coding. We've redefined them in terms of human capital, so you can write off the depreciation on the human capital. It's complicated. What it basically means is it's way more expensive to hire engineers now. So
Yeah.
like all the people that are getting canned in the tech industry, it's not because of LLMs. That's not actually the issue. The issue is that we've structured the tax code to make it prohibitively expensive to hire anybody. So we've really jacked up the incentive to replace them with LLMs or to figure out other ways to do it. But like I that seems like a horrible idea to me. Like at the beginning of the AI race
Yeah.
to kneecap our engineers.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's insane. So yeah, let's talk about the Musk, Elon, and Trump thing. It's I feel it's like I said, we all see it coming. We don't know, but obviously it's we don't know that this say one thing this way, one thing, but I'm sure that the story is about money. It's always is. But even the fact that Elon thinks that he can win this. It's crazy. The most powerful person in the world is the president. Yeah, he has a lot of money. Talk about starting a third party, but why people would believe you? You know, and he did not. I don't think he helped. He's not the reason that Trump won. He helped, but he's not the reason that Trump won. He put his money. We saw when he put his money around the wrong candidates. It didn't work. You know. Um, But do you see, and what he said about Epstein, I mean, people don't realize how many times that Elon will tweet something that was completely false and horrible, but they let it go. But this tweet is just like, it's so low when they say like Epstein files, like really? Like, so what's your prediction and thoughts on that? And then
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
think
make
I think
up.
the Epstein tweet was a real bad call because it's hard to walk back from that.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's you can Trump as thin-skinned and egotistical as he is will make up with people. Like he and Ted Cruz had a fallout. They're fine. Like Lindsey Graham, who's
Yeah.
now like
Marco
sidekick
Rubio.
character. Yeah, like all these people like were in his crosshairs, and he's made peace with them. So like it's not as if he can't reconcile the Epstein thing. That one's hard to walk back from. Uh, yeah, I think what's going on there
But can
is
I say one thing quickly to that? When you say the Epstein is one thing that you can go back from, I think you can for one reason. There's certain insults that Trump take personally. I don't think that's an insult he cares about. If you tell
yeah.
he have small hands, or if you say that he is not popular, or that his rally was empty, he will
He's not
take
he's
that
not as
personally.
wealthy as he says.
Nah,
He's actually just a millionaire. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but if you say like, yeah, if you say like he's an Epstein file, it doesn't really bother. I don't think it bothers him. Even from
Huh.
his reaction, you can tell. Like if Elon says like, what, I was in the bathroom one time and Trump really have small hands, he would lose his
Right.
shit. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
that,
you're right. Maybe.
yeah. So yeah, go back to your point that you were saying.
Yeah, okay. Like I think Elon's a fascinating. I think anybody that's like a tech CEO like that is interesting in that like if we look at like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs enters the computer industry and everybody's like, this is how the computer industry works. And he's like, fuck that. I'm not going to do it that way. And people are like, but you can't do it that way. I mean, this like look at the consensus opinion on how things are done. And he's like, I literally do not care or believe in consensus opinion. Everybody's an idiot but me. So he's able to do that kind of thing. A lot of the people that tend to kind of redefine paradigms and really shake up industries tend to have that mindset of like, look, common sense is bullshit. Most people are two kids in a trench coat trying to get into a rated R film. No one actually knows what they're talking about. The fact that 50 people in a room think things are done this way doesn't convince me because 49 of them are idiots pretending. No. So like you get that. But the flip side of that is that when you get the Steve Jobs character who is uninhibited by consensus opinion on how industry works, they're also completely uninhibited by public opinion on how civility works and interpersonal relationships work. Like they're not going to be, yeah, I don't believe in common sense. Like I can do my own thing. I can redefine my business, but oh, everybody says it's mean for me to talk to that guy that way. No, I won't do that then. Like that, the pressure doesn't work either way. So you tend to get assholes. You tend to get guys that are like really antisocial in terms of their day-to-day interaction. So I'm not surprised this would happen with Elon Musk. And I don't think Elon Musk really gives a shit what anybody else says. Like I don't think he puts much weight in the rest of the world's opinion. So if he might think, yeah, I can win against Trump, or maybe he's thinking like I just have to outlast Trump, and I can ding him in the midterms or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it will be interesting when the presidency is done. I mean, he's always going to be a former president, but if they go back head to head in the business world. So that's another, interesting. But it's only been 100 and few days, and it's just like, I was talking to a friend of mine in Egypt, and she was like, dude, Trump is all over the news every day here too. Like, why? Like, we never heard of Biden when he was president, and I don't know if that's we knew that from the first term. I mean, even like I know I'm sure you do the same thing with the podcast. It's like the first term and this term with Trump being president, I cannot book a guest because I don't know what the topic is going to be. Usually, I'll book guests like 2, 3 months ahead. Now I have to do it weekly because I don't know what the topic is going to be. Because it could be
Hmm.
something that, you talk about and then something else is going to happen. You have to do it quickly because he moves quickly. Um, but
I think
oh,
Trump's top goal in life might be to be the center of attention for the planet. Like I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that is his primary motivation is I want everybody to think and talk about me, and he's totally winning. He's
Yeah. Oh
very
yeah.
good at that.
I
Like
mean,
if that is his goal, he's pulled it off.
he's entertaining an entertainment business forever. But I hope that presidents that come in have the same energy and keep working on stuff like that, every day with a problem. I mean, we still have the wars. It's not like he said in day one. And the funny thing is like he says stuff and just like it's like never happened. He said I'm gonna end the war in day one, but we'll see. But it's only been 150 days or so. I don't know. And it's let's enjoy the ride. But he's a big fan of Reagan, so he might want to because I think Reagan was the last one that tried to do like a good immigration policy. So
George W. Bush was the last one that tried to do immigration reform. George W. Bush
who did the
spoke
Farms
Spanish.
Act? Wasn't it
I don't
Reagan?
know. I don't
Yeah,
know what
I
the
think that
Farms
was
Act
the
is.
first step. Yeah, that was the first step was Reagan. Yeah, but Bush did, but I don't think he
But
really.
that was when the Republicans were pro-immigrant. Like in the 84, would it be 84 or 82 election when Reagan was running as a governor
Yeah,
and George H.W. Bush, who would be his vice president, when they were running against each other in the primaries, they were arguing about who was more pro-immigrant.
yeah,
That was the position of the Republican Party at the time. So Reagan might have done that. I don't know the details on that. And then George W. Bush, who's the last pro-immigrant Republican president, he looked at Hispanic people and he was like, "This is a natural constituency of the Republican Party. They're very hardworking. They value work and industriousness, and they're religious and socially conservative. Like they're Republicans. Bring them in." So he wanted to reform it and bring it in. It got shot down. Didn't happen in the House, and there's been no serious overhaul of immigration ever since.
yeah. And I think if you really want to do it, you have to run on it, and you have to start with it. Not like most of presidents want to do it towards the end of the term. I think you need to do it towards the.
I think Trump could easily I think Trump could actually get this done if he wanted to
Yeah,
because Trump's not an ideologue. There's
yeah,
very few things that he actually believes. He thinks tariffs are good. That's the
yeah,
one thing he's been consistent on since the 80s.
yeah,
He's talked about how we need a wall. Like that was the whole thing in the last term was the wall. I've not heard much about the wall recently, but that was a really big to build the wall, all that shit. Like if I were Democrats and I thought Trump were amenable to it, I would be like, hey, if you will help us do immigration reform, we'll build a giant fucking wall. Like
yeah,
we'll spend billions on the wall. We'll call it the Trump wall. We'll paint it gold. And like we will all come out and fillet you publicly and go, thank God this incredible deal maker has come into our midst and he was able to, he wanted more security. We wanted more immigration reform. We worked it out. Hell yeah. Like, I don't know. I think he could still do that if he wanted to, but he doesn't really want to.
yeah. I,
And he could turn around to his people and go, look, like we built this wall, we built this big, beautiful
I,
wall.
I
We're more
think you
secure than
need
we've
that.
ever been.
Yeah, you need a vision though. You need a vision and a long study of like, okay, this is what we need to do. So we shall see. But last question. So now that Elon Musk said that he want to do a third party or stuff, I always ask this question. I think I might ask you that question before. Do you think it's time, and is it doable to have a third party in this country? Now, the problem was always the funding, of a third party and the vision of a third party who's going to be a leader, who's going to be. And I don't think parties should be started because you want to be opposite of someone. I think you should have your own vision. But do you think that it's time for a third party, and is it doable?
I always think it's time for a third party. I hate that we've got a two-party system. I find it incredibly reductive and restrictive. I don't even say left and right. So I would love for that to happen. It's harder. It's harder to do in the American system because we use first past the polls, which is going
Yeah.
to make it deeply hard to do. Like the two-party system worked well for a while when it didn't really mean anything. So like when you look at the two-party system, really up until like maybe 1995, if you were a Democrat, it really was important whether you were a Mississippi Democrat or a California Democrat. If you were a Republican, there was a very big difference between a Texas Republican and a New Hampshire Republican.
Yeah.
And so the parties would come together every 4 years and pretend that they were national parties, but they weren't. They were regional parties. There was just the issues that affected Oklahoma were very different than the issues affecting Michigan. But then they'd all kind of pretend that they had a thing. But like Kennedy versus Nixon, they don't disagree on anything. Like if you watch the debate, like it's like the whole debate is well, I think we could be harder on the communists, and this is what I would do if I were put into it. And then Kennedy goes, I'd do it better. I would do that, but I would do it better. That's it. That's the whole. They don't actually disagree on anything. It's
Yeah.
just them trying to one up each other in anti-communism because there wasn't any fundamental difference between the two. Um, Third parties within that system are functional as temporary issue hogs, where we like in that system, I create the American we should legalize marijuana party, and my goal is to spoil the election. And so either the Republicans or the Democrats go, all right, listen, if we put it in our platform that we're going to legalize marijuana, will you shut the fuck up and go away? And I go, yep. Basically what RFK did this last time. RFK really wanted to draw attention to healthcare issues, and Trump went, hey, I'll make you head of HHS if you come onto the Trump train. And he went, great. Like that's how third parties functionally work. I would love it if we had an actual third party. I think that demographically we could certainly do that because neither political party in terms of leadership or elected officials actually represents the party, let alone the country. The amount of people that come out to the primaries are negligible. It's like 15% of the people in the party go do it, which means it's the most conservative Republicans and the most progressive Democrats. So when they select somebody, the party itself is like, that guy's a bit much for me. And they may not be nearly as ideological. And then I'm not in a political party. I'm an independent. I now have to pick between Ramsay Bolton and King Joffrey. I don't fucking like either of those dudes. I'm more of a Tyrion Lannister guy. So I would love all of that. In terms of making it work, though, the big problems are, as you point out, money. The other big problem is that we do have a rigged system. We have a rigged system in terms of ballot access in the country. A lot of the states have laws on the books that grandfather you in if you had X percentage of the vote last time, which means Republican or Democrat. If you're not one of the top two parties, I wonder who that's going to be. You have to go get 10,000 signatures every election, which means that the party has to very expensively pay people to go do that. So those happen. There's rules all over the country, state by state, which make it extremely difficult for a third party to exist because they don't want them to exist.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans and the Democrats both know that it's much easier for me to run a campaign based on being afraid of you than it is me actually having to present a coherent narrative on my own account. It's easier for me to go in and go, look, I, Andrew Heaton, am a shitbag. I know you hate me, but here's the thing. Hatem, that guy's the fucking death of the country. Like, I mean, like, look, I know you don't like me. I get it, but you can't vote for Hatem. You can't vote for Hatem, right? Like, if you had like ranked choice voting in three parties, you'd actually have to make a proactive case of like, hey, here's why I deserve your vote, not why you should vote against that dude, but why you should vote for me. They don't want that to happen. It's very lucrative, and it's much easier to run campaigns based on I am the lesser of two evils than it is to run a comprehensive campaign. So I'm not holding my breath for a third party to
I think
occur.
the only solution will be to for someone with a lot of money to make a deal with a candidate that they support from one of those parties that when they win, they change the laws of the election. Or if you have somebody like maybe like a Bernie Sanders, somebody like willing to take a risk and know that they're going to be gone out of the political picture soon, you know. But
Or
if I
you
have a
could do
third
something
party,
like,
I will call it Independence Party.
yeah,
Just to fuck
great,
with people so
sign me
people
up.
don't say anymore, I'm independent. No, no, not the
Yeah, yeah,
party.
yeah.
I'm independent,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. No, I
So
like that. That would confuse everybody. Or you could go the forward party route, which I think is interesting. Like the forward party is an open party, so you can be a Democrat and a member of the forward party, or you can be a
yeah.
Republican and a
Well,
member of
the
the
forward
forward
is
party.
what's his name?
Andrew Yang, yeah.
Yeah, Andrew Yang, yeah.
So that's kind of what it's kind of like what they did with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with the Justice Democrats, where
Yeah.
AOC like has said like I shouldn't be in the same party as Joe Biden, like
Yeah.
he's a neoliberal, I'm a socialist or whatever, and she's right. Like it doesn't make any sense for them to be in
Yeah.
the same party, but the Justice Democrats went, we're going to form a caucus within the Democratic Party as opposed to form a separate party like the Libertarians did.
Yeah.
I think what you could do that would be a pretty good strategy would require it. The problem is a lot of the people that want to form the third party are moderates. I fall into that camp myself, and moderates don't tend to be super pugilistic. They want to be big party people that form consensus. I get that. That's where I am temperamentally. In order to really change things, you're going to have to run spoilers. What I would do is I would bring back the Reform Party or bring back the Whig Party. And the whole part of the Whig Party is we just want open primaries and ranked choice voting. That's it. We just want, and maybe some like anti-gerrymandering stuff, right? And then what I would do is I would try to get angry former governors who are very popular that could actually make a dent, and I would have them run third party in swing states. And I would go in and go, we're trying to fuck up the election. We know it's a toss up between the Republicans and the Democrats, and our goal is to fuck up the election. Our goal is to come in and be a spoiler candidate, but we'll go away if you put in open primaries and ranked choice voting, because then we've been defamed. We
Yeah.
literally can't spoil the election under those circumstances. We can't spoil it with ranked choice voting. So if you put it in, we're neutralized. But it requires like going in and fucking shit up and
Yeah.
like flipping elections and having a bunch of people get mad at you because the Democrat wins instead of the Republican or vice versa. But it'll require that and some money.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Elon Musk should hire me to outline the strategy
There you
for him.
go.
I could do some damage.
There you go. If Andrew, thank you so much. If people want to listen to you more, where should they go?
Come find me on the political orphanage. And I'm gonna make a promise to your listeners. I'm very tired of the Trump stuff. So if you're tired of the Trump stuff, I don't talk about him that much on the political orphanage. I try to take a step back. The last couple of weeks, I've just been doing historical shit. I've just been
Oh,
doing like assassination attempts in American history. I talk about like a dude tried to pot Andrew Jackson, and then Andrew Jackson nearly beat him to death with a cane until his aides pulled him off. I talk about like James A. Garfield. Who the fuck's that guy? Why did he get shot? Turns out there's a story behind that. So I've been talking about stuff like that. And then I do big picture stuff like housing policy. I had a lady on talking about licensing regimes a couple of weeks before that, and then film subsidies before that. So it's a little bit less rancorous. And if you're listening to the program and you're like, man, I like that whole independent thing Heaton's on about. I don't really like the Republicans or the Democrats. Come on over to the political orphanage. It's made for you.
there you go. All right. Andrew, always great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Good to see you.
See you.